I won't try and belabor the points of all these people who have come before me. We are trying to provide practical applications in the city of Seattle, in large part because if you take a look, our city center is constrained actually on both sides by water. The city itself, if you wanted to imagine it, looks like a sheet of paper that's been crumpled in the center. And that constriction within our geography makes for a number of challenges for us. A little bit of information. Right now within the USA, we're one of the fastest growing cities. We have a number of geographic constraints as mentioned. And while our economy has multiple factors, Boeing is in place, Amazon is there, and a second headquarters is going to be formed somewhere in the United States, 40% of our economy within the state of Washington relies immediately on goods delivery. Ports, airports, and rail are all involved within the city of Seattle. And what we have done is work with the University of Washington and our private partners mentioned here to come up with a method for urban goods delivery that benefits both the public and private sectors. Our goals were to improve first-time delivery success and reduce delivery dwell time, both of which provide economic for the private partner success and transportation success by reducing the number of vehicles on our travelways. Most importantly for us, our partnership is based on solutions rather than enforcement. Every time we have seen enforcement come into play, the costs are simply translated onto the final delivery recipient. And our goal is to attempt to provide an improved network, an improved set of inventory or assets for delivery to succeed more easily. As we look at our information on the ground, we began to ask questions of what we were doing and whether or not we were doing things properly. This is an example of a load zone that is double parked and that our transit agency determined that they wanted to add a new stop. They went to the building operator and asked the question, do you use this load zone? And they answered no, because they didn't bother to ask any of the truck drivers or any of the delivery agencies required. As a result, they filled in that load zone, and now it only takes one truck to block a transit lane. So we are learning our lessons as we go. And one of the reasons this is important for us right now is that we're at the very beginning of 5 major construction projects that over the next 3 years will change our waterfront, remove a viaduct, finish the construction of a tunnel, which will be tolled, which is another point of contention for our residents, add a light rail system, and we will continue to operate what is right now, I think, the second largest number of cranes in the US. Last year, we topped out at 70 cranes for construction within our city limits, most of which were in the downtown sector, which is a 5 square mile area. So we have trucks parking in transit lanes. This gentleman is actually just leaving his truck for an unknown amount of deliveries. We have an alley system that is very unregulated, and as you can see, one side there's a truck parked, on the far side there's another truck parked, and they've actually blocked in 2 other delivery and operating individuals. While we have a great unused asset at this point in time, nobody knows exactly how to use it, and nobody has had an opportunity to regulate it. We're in the process of doing so. What we're doing is we're calling the final 50 feet of research is what happens when you stop that truck and you move to get your delivery to the final person, the final recipient. And so in 2016, we did a private loading bay inventory. The important part, 87% of our buildings downtown rely on the public right-of-way in some way, shape, or form to receive their goods. We took a look at building surveys, or reviewed building surveys by type to find out what type of delivery needs they had, what their delivery times were, and by land use, as mentioned previously, began to understand what our needs are. This year, we completed an alley survey. We did not have even basic geometric data on some of our alleys. The last time we could find information was from 1959, and we found that in a file cabinet in a book, and all it was pictures. So we're trying to update our own data as we go. But based on the information we received, we actually have been able to map out what our qualitative accessibility is building by building downtown. Green, obviously, is better access. Red is more challenged. And if you look closely, what we did is we took our load zones and actually created a delivery shed so that we could understand where our buildings had opportunities, where we had challenges, and where we could actually use our alleys to better our access. Front and center is 1 square block where I see a lot of red buildings. And as we move into our construction and into our next 3 years of what we call the period of maximum constraint, I will be speaking directly with these individuals to incentivize them to find ways to deliver. Because we know for a fact that they are doing things that are challenging for them, that may not follow our own rules, and frankly, that are going to be impacting any of the adjacent buildings within a 500-foot radius, 200 meters or so. This is giving us our first opportunity to review what we need to do and to discuss it in a qualitative manner. It lets us break into 2 prongs of operation. We're trying to mitigate our existing building conditions. That map before lets you understand, or lets me understand a little better, who we need to speak with and discuss that. For instance, 10% of any delivery time is taken up just by meeting security requirements at buildings. A third of it is taken up just finding individuals. And as we begin to understand what the challenges are, we can begin to address our own needs. We look to develop operating practices. Management by building and management by our own building operators is going to be a key part of that. If we can reduce the amount of time it takes to operate within a building, we can reduce the amount of time a load zone is taken and used. Although not mentioned here, one of the pieces of information we found is that we have 30-minute time limits on our load zones. Most of our trucks either use 15 minutes or 45 minutes. Rarely do we have somebody staying exactly 30 minutes. It indicates that we are either under or over managing depending on location. And while we have yet to determine which of those locations are right, we know where to look now. Finally, into the future, we're taking a look at land use and building design. We are aiming to have a more self-sufficient set of buildings in terms of delivery. As we move forward, our mitigation measures are to get us into the future and let the new building design take care of its needs on its own footprint. And while it was relatively quick, I would very much like to say thank you for the opportunity.